Hi, Savannah, and thanks for tuning into Real Estate Real Talk with Julia M. Spencer. You're listening to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. And thanks for having tuned in here on this Wednesday afternoon. I am back from a very long vacation from Europe. Glad to be back here. And let's talk a little bit about real estate investing. My show is about that, about real estate investing, about being a landlord, being a vacation rental host like I am myself, and anything and everything related with the topic of real estate. And hopefully here in a little bit, we're going to have somebody calling in, possibly. If not, we're going to be answering lots of questions and answers from subscribers. But until that happens, I'm going to play you guys some music here to entertain you. I'm kind of winging it a little bit this lunchtime here. I was on also last night, so I'm going to play some of my favorite songs from last night. And we're going to get ready to get to your questions on real estate investing. We'll be right back. Hi, Savannah listeners. Thanks for being back here with Real Estate Real Talk with Julia M. Spencer. So I am back from my vacation. Thank you for having tuned in, having stuck with me. Also, thanks to my co-hosts here and colleagues that have hosted for me the last couple of weeks very diligently, Tom Murray here and Therese Misher, who was on right before me here at this noon hour. Thank you so much. We had a blast in Europe. We definitely did. And I'm glad I have such great people that I work with here at the studio that can kind of fill in for me whenever something happens, like a long, big vacation, which was a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and just answer a couple questions today related to real estate investing, and we're going to play some music in between, kind of like winging it more or less. I have a lot of questions that I have not answered on my YouTube channel. By the way, if you're interested in watching some of my videos, you can always do that for free, of course, YouTube. There's no charge or anything. My channel is Julia M. Spencer. And you can see some of the topics that I address. But this first question, let's just get right to it, is by a user called I am AKSD, can't remember, but he just posted this question about 13 hours ago. And it is on a video that I posted on overage investing and some of the pitfalls of overage investing, how you have to be kind of careful not to be like the middle person that's considered as somebody who's collecting a fee for purchasing and selling properties, because in some states, certainly here in Georgia, you will have to have a license for that. So I'm just going to read you this question. We're going to talk a little bit about it. I've come across many courses out there that are costing over $1,000. I've been interested in doing overages as an opportunity to get my foot in the door to get into real estate investing. I can add this as part of my portfolio and an additional services, but I've heard so many different views of whether doing overages, is it worth it or not as well. Some states you can do this in or not, including having to deal with attorneys. I'm in the state of Virginia. Very good question. It's a little bit jumbled there, but I'm going to just translate that a little bit. I guess this person is concerned about whether overage investing is still feasible. And I've actually had that question and discussion with a lot of my fellow graybeard investors out there. We've had a lot of talks about that and whether or not it's actually a good thing to get into. I can tell you all right now, dear listeners, overage investing, a lot of times people tell me that it's kind of like a sideline of property investment or real estate investing, because you're mostly dealing with money transfers. You basically, let me just explain to you what that actually means. It's basically when you are going to an auction, and in some states, of course, that's not doable because in some states there aren't any overages because there are no upbids of the auctions. But when you go to like a foreclosure auction and there's a starting bid, and then let's say there's a lot of people there bidding and the price keeps going up and up and up, and you will have like what's called an overage. The minimum amount that is required to satisfy the lien has already been met by the minimum bid that somebody did, and now there's other bidders upping and upping the amount to a higher number. And at that point, what is called an overage is created. And a lot of people have asked me what happens to this overage. Does the government authority that's conducting the auction actually keep that money? Do they pocket it? What happens to it? And who does it go to? And who does it even belong to? I mean, the lien is satisfied. What happens to it? So there's a number of things that can happen with this overage, and it depends on what state, what county, what city you're in. If the overage is just small, it just goes into the county fund or the city fund, whoever conducted the auction, and it kind of just sits there. And more than likely, nobody has a claim on it. Maybe it's a couple of $100, some small amount. And what usually the counties and cities do, they kind of just apply it to the next tax bill. Let's say here in Chatham County, we have a county that bills every 6 months or so. So let's say you're close to the second billing cycle. They just keep it in their county fund and then apply it to the next bill. So whoever owns their property, the next time the bill comes out, they don't have to pay the whole amount. But whatever the amount is, the tax bill is minus the overage that was already paid in advance, basically. So that is one way that that's handled. Another way that it's handled is that the original owner of the property that lost the property at the auction can actually make a claim for that money with the taxing authority, with the authority that actually conducted the bid, being the county, the city, whatever it is, and they can file a paper or some sort of claim to get that overage for them, for their property that they lost. That is possible. In some counties, cities, and states, there is a process for that that's very structured. The county and city will give you forms. You fill those out, and you kind of submit them. And then basically what you get is that overage paid out to you as the owner. In the third case, this is actually something I experienced in one of the counties in California that I went to an auction to one time. The county holds the money, and if nobody comes to claim it within 12 months, the ownership rights for that overage are actually forfeit. And that basically just translates to the fact that then the owner has no more rights to that money, no investor has rights to that money, and even the bidder has no rights to that money. That money then belongs to the county or the city after 12 months if nobody claims it. And they're kind of a little bit sneaky about it. They won't even tell you about it and just kind of sits there and nobody takes it. The county just keeps it. That's kind of like what you hear late night on TV. If you hear those infomercials, have you ever heard them? Where they say, hey, there's government money sitting there for you. Let us do a search for you. What you're talking about or who this person is that's making this infomercial are basically overage investors that have access to all these auction records and see where and how much was overpaid on whatever amounts that they are anywhere. And they basically ask for you to sign up with them so that they can claim that money for you if you're the original owner or anybody that has rights to that property and rights to that overage, obviously, for whatever reason. And I'll get to that in a minute. And they basically want you to sign up with them so they can claim that money for you. However, of course, they will charge you a fee. And in some cases, that fee is actually quite significant. It can be up to 50%. So you would be losing quite a significant amount of money if you don't know what you're doing as an owner. You know, it's 50% is better than nothing, but, 100% is better than 50% too. So that's kind of my thinking on these things. In any case, I have not answered the question of this overage investor or potential overage investor here. And of course, I can take this forever just to explain what overage investing is. But what he's asking me here is that the courses are way over $1,000. Yes, they are. And people, of course, make money teaching you how to invest in overages. But what I have found is that the people that are very successful with overage investing, and I've mentioned this in my ebooks and some of my YouTube videos, and this is also the reason why I haven't made any ebooks on this particular topic, because I think it's just, to me, it's not considered real estate investing. To me, it's basically money recovery type service business. It's not a real estate investment business. There's a little bit of a difference. So you can, of course, invest in thousands of dollars to get somebody to teach you how to do it, but it's not very difficult. It's very straightforward. What the difficulty will be for you, though, as an investor is that just the people skills that are required and the research skills that are required to find the original owners. For example, if they're deceased and descendants are absent or gone or have moved away or changed names, and it's basically tracking people down. You have to have several software applications that you subscribe to so you can find people. You have to also subscribe to the auction records, basically, how much was bid where and how much and in what county exactly at what date. To have that updated for you very regularly, you need to have that as well. And you need to basically subscribe to these services, which costs money basically, but you need to be very diligent with research and following up, being on the phone pretty much all day long. And what I have found, the people that are very successful in this are actually bill collectors or have worked in the bill collecting business for basically credit companies. You know, if you don't pay your credit cards or, you know, your Home Depot card or whatever, they'll come after you and try to find you, and they will find you. And that's the people that are the most successful to find overages for people too. Kind of a little bit on the positive side because they're actually finding you to give you money versus trying to collect from you. But you kind of have to have the same kinds of skills to be successful in this. Now, if you're more interested in actual real estate and actual property and learning about land and buildings and things like that, then that might not be the right line of business for you. But, you know, I just wanted to put that out there because I get this question a lot from my subscribers, and whether basically it's worth it to get into overages. Now, of course, also the other part of this question was, is it worth it? As in some states you can do this, but in some states you cannot. And yes, that's true as well. In the states where there's no overages created during the auctions, of course, it's an OBE topic. You can't do overage investing when there's no overages, obviously. And that would be, for example, states where you bid down the interest versus bidding up a final amount. The final amount of the bid stays the same, but you're basically just bidding how much interest you're going to get on that amount once you win that bid. So there is no overage created. Hence, there is no overage investing purpose in those kinds of states. Florida would be one of them, for example. And also, the other question that this person had is you have to deal a lot with attorneys. You do possibly have to deal with attorneys later on down the line. But it is always best to do this work yourself first. The reason why you would have to deal with a lot of attorneys when you do overage investing is many cases to understand how to read property records and to do title searches. Because as an overage investor, if there's an overage on a property that's owed, it's not just owed to the original owner, it's also owed to anybody else that has a lien against the property. And that could be the IRS, it could be a contractor that maybe didn't get paid to redo a roof or some other repair. It could be anybody and everybody, and to find out who that is and where these people are, even mortgages, by the way, you need to learn how to read property records and how to find property records and go to the courthouses and learn how to do that. Best way to do that, of course, is using an attorney, and they have special services and software to do that more proficiently, faster, and also more efficiently. But of course, if you're doing a lot of these, and the overage investors that I've met to do many of these, they can't afford to drop $300 to $500 to do a title search on each one of those properties when the return isn't maybe that high. So they kind of learn how to do it themselves. One last bit here about overage investing before I get here on a little break. I can't believe it's already 12:25, people. Where has the time gone? I started talking about real estate. Life just passes me by, I think, in flying double, triple speed. So one last thing about overage investing, one of the most difficult things that I have found, and this is also why I have actually initially started talking to overage investors to learn what they do, is because a lot of times there isn't any, I guess, structured regulation with counties and cities, in some counties and cities. And it's, of course, it's different in every locale, but there's no specific rules of when and how any overage is going to be released to either a third party or the original owner. And this is significant because the counties and cities will then sometimes, and this really does happen, just hold on to the money because nobody in their office can figure out how to do it. And they just hold on to it and won't release it to a third party. You as an investor would be the third party, and sometimes don't even release it to the original owner without proper documentation. In many cases, sometimes the money is just held up and it just sits there until a lot of time passes where the money doesn't have to be released anymore because it's then forfeit, as in the case of California that I mentioned in the beginning, where after 12 months the money just goes to the county. So a lot of different pieces of information here. I hope I'm not overloading you. Wanted to answer that real quick about overage investing. This is a very, very good question. And let's go to, let's see, we're almost at the half hour. I'm going to play some announcements here for you all. I'm going to figure out what happened to our caller and play a song. And then we should be right back with more questions and answers.
For 10 days in August, WRUU 107.5 FM will be auctioning off more than $3,000 worth of fun and unique items to raise money to support this nonprofit community radio station. WRUU radio hosts have worked hard to gather items to delight and dazzle. From August 11th through the 21st, you can bid on gift cards and certificates for great local restaurants and bars, art, theater, fitness, and much more. Browse the catalog today. Every purchase will help WRUU continue to bring you Savannah's most diverse and passionate radio programming. Look for the summer business auction at WRUU.org.
WRUU 107.5 FM is all volunteer community radio. Tune in this afternoon. From 3 to 4, Rob Hessler and David Laughlin present Art on the Air, an interview program dedicated to the visual arts in Savannah. From 4 to 6, Louis Clausey and Matthew Adams present That Old Savannah Magic, a variety show featuring Savannah history, radio theater, interviews, and music. From 6 to 7, Barbara Humphreys and Albert Strickland present Voices of Resistance, giving voice to justice and peace activists with no other voice in the Savannah media. Find our full schedule at WRUU.org. Beginning July 1st, Georgia law requires hands-free technology for phones and other electronic devices while driving. Beginning July 1st, it is illegal to write, send, or read anything, including messages and internet data, while holding your device and driving. Drivers may hold phones and other electronic devices while lawfully parked, as in off the road or in a designated parking area. This does not include at stop signs. For more information, visit gahighwaysafety.org.
St. Lucia, Brighter Love, and prior to that I actually played Not the Same by Distractor, some of my favorite songs from my show last night. If you had a chance to listen to it, I was on from 10 p.m. till midnight. Thanks for having stayed here with me for Real Estate Real Talk with Julia M. Spencer, answering subscribers' questions today. And we just had a really long discussion about overage investing. Hope you were able to follow. If you have any more questions about that topic, you can always email me at realestate@juliamspencer.com. Same also my website, juliamspencer.com. Got tons of videos there out on YouTube that you can also watch on anything and everything real estate related. And you can always also just let me know if you have any other topics that you want me to discuss on the air or in private. Just send me a message. I'll be glad to look at them. And rocking out here. You know what, people? I'm actually really glad that they attached this microphone a little bit tightly here, because it used to just fall on my board, and it was the most funniest thing. If you heard any of my past shows, there's like a big loud thumb halfway through, and people are like, what the hell just happened? It's the microphone. But it's very much attached here. I'm so glad being back here at my WRUU home. And by the way, if I haven't mentioned it yet, you are listening to WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I did play the announcement already. We have currently a summer business auction going on, so make sure you check that out too. And just go to the WRUU.org website. All kinds of things there going to be auctioned off for businesses, certificates, and coupons and things like that. Awesome stuff. I'm going to check it out a little bit later because I want to see what's available there and maybe make a couple purchases as well. And all of the proceeds, of course, benefit your station here, your community radio station, most diverse radio station here in Savannah. We have over 70 hosts here at WRUU. We're all volunteers, and we absolutely, totally, completely love what we do. And I'm certainly super happy to be here every time I get a chance. So anyways, let's talk a little bit more about real estate here. Let's see. What's the next question I got? Oh, all right. Let's talk about this. This one's a good one. I have a video out there on YouTube, and I want to say I'm trying to figure out here what the actual title of it is, but it's okay, I found it. It's called Bought for $15,000 Home Foreclosure Inside Look. It's actually a video I made about a house that was purchased for $15,000. It's a super nice 4-bedroom, I think 3-bath house right on the suburbs, in the suburbs of Las Vegas, Nevada. And I have like a video where I actually walk through it and kind of show people what it's what it looks like. I think here in the Savannah area, a similar home like that would probably go for anywhere between $300,000 and $400,000. And it was purchased for $15,000. And I have lots of questions on this video. It's one of my most watched videos. So let's answer some of these questions. The first one is, did you go to the actual auction or did you bid online for this particular property? And of course, dear listeners, you haven't seen the video, but you can check it out. But my answer to this question is I didn't purchase this property. This was one of my friend investors, graybeard investors that have been doing it for 40-some years. They're the ones that actually purchased it. And as far as I remember, they had to go there in person to bid on this auction. But this auction was actually for outstanding homeowners association fees. And what has happened, and the laws, of course, have changed since a little bit in Nevada. And as always, for any real estate investor, if you're getting into that kind of business, the laws will change on you constantly. And you probably might get sued, and you might win sometimes, you might lose. I mean, you're really going to get into the weeds of this if you're going to get the really good deals. In any case, this particular investor did purchase this property for $15,000. I thought at first he was also kidding me, so I had to go look at the property records and verify for myself. And I did, and it is true. And I put also copies of those property records in that video. And yeah, but basically what has happened, as far as he was able to tell me, is that he came across this property for outstanding condo fees, was notified by the foreclosure houses or auctioneers, basically, that work for the condo associations, that this house hasn't, the owner hasn't paid their condo HOA fees for quite some time, and they were going to put it up for bid. And of course, there was a mortgage, and there was I guess, a divorcing couple, and neither one of them wanted to catch up the payments. They just wanted to let it go. And what happened is he basically, bid on the auction at the condo association auction and wanted for the $15,000 outstanding condo fees, and then had to go into a little bit of a legal battle with the mortgage company because at that time, the condo and HOA fees were on a senior level before any kind of mortgages or any other kinds of liens, or it was either before, I can't remember exactly, or they were on the same level, which basically means that neither one of them has the upper hand on who owns this property. But since it was auctioned off at the condo a fee level, and this particular investor got it for the outstanding condo fees, he was now kind of like in the hoops with the mortgage company, because of course they wanted their property back because they had a lien much larger than the $15,000, and it went to court, and they had a little bit of a fight over it, and eventually my investor friend won. And of course maybe had some legal fees of course added to that, probably a couple $1,000s. But fair and square, he got the property for $15,000, and he just decided to keep it. It is his second residence now in Vegas whenever he goes there for auctions. I stayed there. Well, actually, I stayed there. I looked at it. I've been there a few times now. Every time we go check on the property whenever we're there. And he was able to use that exact same system on several other properties. So the answer to this question here from the subscriber is, did I go to this actual auction or did you bid online? I didn't bid on this property at all. This was my friend that did, and he got it at an actual auction, and he went there in person. And to get deals like that, because I get a lot of people that ask me, hey, how can you get a deal like that? I mean, this is the kind of house I'm talking about. This is what everybody wants when they think about becoming a homeowner. How do you get that? Well, it takes a lot of years of practice, and it takes a lot of time and know-how, and basically really, really staying on top of things every single day. I mean, this is the stuff that you're going to be breathing, living, sleeping, thinking about all the time. And as soon as something comes up, you're the first one to strike. And this is how you get those good deals. You can't just do it every once in a while or do it part-time. This is a full-time commitment. Not full-time work, mind you, but it's full-time commitment to make serious money in real estate investing. So let's see. What else? I have another question on that same exact video from somebody else. Keith Nade. Let's see. What's our time here? Yeah, I can answer that real quick, and then we're going to play another break song here. So after buying a house for, say, $10,000, what is the next step to selling it, renting it, even after putting money into it? Is there a marketing strategy, promotion strategy? Well, Keith, you're kind of jumping the ahead a little bit too fast. If you buy a house for $10,000 and it's worth as much as this one is, you really don't need to worry about the next step. First off, it's going to first take a couple of years. In some states, it takes 2 to 3 years to actually capitalize on your investment, meaning that there is usually a redemption period where the original owner can come and claim the property back from you. Here in the state of Georgia, it's 12 months. I usually have to wait a year. And then it takes a couple extra months once you hire the attorney and do some of the legal paperwork, like the barring of the redemption rights, which you do need to hire an attorney for. So after that, I mean, it's up to you. You want to sell it, you want to rent it, you want to keep it to live in it yourself. There is no next step. It's yours. And of course, you could go through the quiet title procedure. A lot of investors recommend that. What I recommend is to skip that step altogether. But when you do sell the property, give the new owners a cheap price, a very reasonable discount, which, you know, in your mind, you can calculate it as the equivalent of how much it would have cost you to go through the quiet title court action, which takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months and can cost you anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000. So just give them a discount for that. It's a small amount for the savings of the 6 to 8 months of holding period, so you can basically sell it faster. That's what I do. But I've also purchased properties right here in the city of Savannah that I just kept and have kept for several years and just started fixing and renting. So, yeah, that is basically what you do. That's your next step. Selling it, renting it. Which one should you do? The answer is yes to both. And even after putting money into it, marketing strategy, promotion strategy, quite honestly, when you have that much leverage in a piece of property and you purchased it for that cheap and the sales price or the going market rate is much higher, you won't have any problem selling it. I mean, I have sold houses predominantly. I just put one little tiny ad on Craigslist and I get like 100 responses already because the price is just right. I mean, you got to price it right, of course, otherwise you won't get any good responses. So, and then you kind of adjust, you know. I have sold houses on eBay. I've sold houses on Craigslist. I've used my subscriber list because a lot of subscribers that watch my videos here on YouTube and my my email subscription list are actually looking to actively invest. So I send them basically a little email stating, hey, I got this available. Anybody want it? And you would be surprised how much connection you make. Just put the word out there. There's always people looking for properties, especially property that is easy to fix and basically make into a nice place for somebody to live or make a little bit of profit on it. So this is not the hard part. The hard part is finding the deals and coming up with the money to pay for them. All right. Well, we got only about 10 minutes or so left here on Real Estate Real Talk. I can't believe how fast the time goes. Love it here. Absolutely. I'm going to be right back with you all. I'm going to grab a little bit to drink here and check out and see who has the next question here on my YouTube channel. I'm going to play you guys another favorite song from my show last night, Cabaret Voltaire Sensoria, the 7-inch version, one of my favorite songs from the 80s. And that was Cabaret Voltaire Sensoria. And thanks for listening to Real Estate Real Talk with Julia M. Spencer. I think the last question I'm going to answer is actually not from my YouTube channel here, but is from a person that I just met. Actually, I was at the Sentient Bean here in downtown Savannah earlier today. I was working a little bit on some of my bills and other things. Some of the to-dos that everybody has to do, right? Especially on a Wednesday. It's kind of like no way around it. It's not too early. It's not too late. You got to do it. Got to pay those bills. Anyways, I ran into somebody who asked me a question. He was going to call in, but I think he may have gotten preoccupied with something else. But no matter. The question was, he actually owns a piece of real estate, a property on Tybee Island here. And his biggest question was, should he keep it and rent it or whatever, or sell it? And the reason for his question basically is that he was debating whether he should sell it because he's afraid that the next big hurricane is going to just wipe out the whole island or big parts of it. And his flood insurance covers only up to $250,000. Property itself, of course, is worth more. And the other concern that he had is once there is maybe a catastrophic hurricane or something, which we haven't really had one in quite some time. We had some close calls, I guess, last year. But the catastrophic one that he's kind of scared of hasn't come yet. So he's very worried about losing a lot of equity because the flood insurance is only going to replace a portion of it. So the first answer I gave him was, hey, it's on Tybee, keep it. It's perfect vacation rental area. If you use it as a vacation rental, of course. Pretty much from March until, most of the year except for January and February, you pretty much have a good chance to make a profit on it every month. So just keep it. You just have to keep up with the officials and the licenses and everything else that's required out there in Tybee to run a vacation rental business. And but his concern was mostly that, hey, if my house gets wiped out and it's worth more than $250,000. How am I going to be able to come up with the difference to rebuild it? How's that going to be possible? And furthermore, he's worried that when there is maybe a catastrophic wipeout like that, and the way I gathered from his question is maybe that he's actually very close to the water line, that he may not be given the opportunity to rebuild on the same piece of land. Because I said basically, your property might get wiped out, but the land is still there, so you can just rebuild on that land. And most of your property value out there in Tybee is going to be the actual land. It's not necessarily going to be the building. Of course, there's exceptions. But, $250,000 may or may not cover him to rebuild. So those are some really good questions. And as I walked away... and we didn't talk about this, but as I walked away, I had another idea about this. And real estate investing a lot of times is about hedging risks and trying to analyze in your head how much risk you can handle. Tybee Island is a very big vacation area for Savannah, for this area. And some significant large profits are to be made out there on the island. And it might very well worth it just to hedge that risk and keep your property and keep renting it and make those profits in those high season months. They're anywhere between March and September or so. And kind of like basically hedge your risk and kind of see if you want to accept the risk for a possible hurricane that may or may not happen in the next any time in the next future. And still collect those profits until that time comes? Or are you more risk averse, I guess I should say? Then in that case, the other suggestion I would have for this person, this is something that I would personally do because I am risk averse and I like to protect what I already have, protect my equity and protect my property. I would just go ahead and sell it. If you can sell it possibly in the springtime would be a better time to sell a property in any case. It's usually when most of the properties are sold. For this one, most people are looking for property to buy anyways in the spring. Don't try to sell it in the winter because you're probably gonna not have as much demand for it. And then just move a couple islands back. You just move to Wilmington or Whitmarsh Island, somewhere where you're protected by the marshlands and the hurricane may not have as much effect on you. The other thing to consider when purchasing a property would be to find one that is away from any kind of water line. In the middle of an island, for example, like I personally live on Whitmarsh Island, so somewhere in the middle of the island, and you can actually see that on the flood maps that are published online, where the water lines are, where the actual flood zones are, and kind of find yourself a property that's outside the high risk areas. And heck, if you have a property on Tybee Island, you might be able to very easily sell it and buy two similar ones for the same price, two of them together, a couple islands back. And if you want to still make them into rentals, the islands, of course, very desirable renting area for long-term rentals as well as vacation rentals. In fact, Tybee less so for long-term rentals, more vacation rentals. But when you go a couple islands back, suddenly you have the opportunity, I guess, the possibility to open your property to a lot more prospects for renting it, vacation rentals and long-term rentals. Or you can live there yourself and you have a reasonable assurance that the risk is hedged in some little way anyways, a little bit better than it is on Tybee. So that's the other option that I would recommend to this investor, this homeowner that I just spoke to over there at the Sentient Bean. And that was pretty much my last question that I can answer for today, because unfortunately we are close to the 1 p.m. hour. I wanted to give you guys a couple free, of course, free, couple of announcements here before I get off the air. And that would be that my show here, Real Estate Real Talk, is on Wednesdays at noon, 12 to 1 p.m. actually, right after the happiness message. You can also listen to me again next Monday. I'll be on hosting Way Left of the Dial for Tom Murray from 4 to 6 p.m. on your drive home. So just remember, Monday on your drive home, tune into 107.5 FM. And you'll be able to hear me and some cool, awesome music. By the way, I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler here. The playlist I'm going to play is my cousins from Germany. And we, of course, are big 80s fans. So we're going to be playing all kinds of really cool 80s R&B and cool stuff. Been listening to that playlist all day and I love it. And anyways, that is all I have for you today, dear listeners. Make sure you stay on. The next show right here on the station is going to be Jazz Brunch, hosted by Dave Lake. The next live show right here at the station is Art on the Air from 3 to 4 p.m. And I'm going to be signing off with my favorite summer song, my favorite summer song from the summer, listened to first in Amsterdam, and it's called Breathing by Oscar and the Wolf. Have a great rest of the week, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Bye, everyone.
For your free guide to real estate investing, visit juliamspencer.com.